US President Donald Trump has paused military aid to Ukraine. Donald Trump previously refused to confirm if he would temporarily stop aid to the country. A White House official says Mr. Trump is focused on achieving a peace deal and wants Volodymyr Zelensky to be committed to that goal. The president has launched a fresh attack on Mr. Zelensky after the Ukrainian leader suggested an end to the war with Russia is very, very far away.
Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us because, as you know, that's right there. That's the border. This country really was like the fence on the border. It was very important to Europe, and I'm not knocking Europe. I'm saying that they were a lot smarter than Joe Biden because Joe Biden didn't have a clue. He just gave money hand over fist.
Mr. Trump also didn't deny claims made by the Kremlin, which said the US president's foreign policy largely aligns with Russia's. Let's go live to Washington. Our correspondent Annelise Nielsen standing by. Annelise, how significant will this be to Ukraine's war effort?
Well, look, in one sense, we knew this was coming. Donald Trump hadn't approved any additional Ukraine aid since he came into office. There was no signal he was going to do this. The significance of this happening at this moment from a domestic perspective is the fact he's going to address a joint session of Congress tomorrow. This is something the Democrats could wedge Donald Trump on, given there is still widespread support for Ukraine among Democrat voters. They could be holding up or threatening to hold up at least budget resolutions for the Republicans. And so that is a key pressure point. This is Donald Trump making it clear before he has this joint address to Congress. It's essentially a State of the Union, but this is what happens when it's the first address from a president. He's only been in a month, so he doesn't get to give the report card for the last guy. He just gets to say what he wants to do. What he is going to do is make it clear that this conversation is over. And there has been a lot of support among Republicans for how he's handled this. The fact that this has played out in the way it has with this confrontation in the Oval Office, for many Republicans, they've been feeling like the last few years they haven't been taken seriously on a global stage, that Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline has weakened America, and this is America looking strong again. I know many have felt like it looked like a complete ambush and bullying an ally, and there's certainly voices that match that perspective here as well. But from a political perspective, what Donald Trump here is doing is essentially just closing that door, and he's also not letting this ratchet up from Zelensky's perspective. For Republicans as well, they've also been watching what happened with Zelensky after he left. He refused to apologize, and then he went to the warm embrace of European leaders who've all pledged to do more to make up for the big bad guy, Donald Trump. For Republicans, that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted Europe to step up, they wanted Europe to spend more money, and they wanted Europe to take the lead, take responsibility. So for them, this has been nothing but win-win-win. So Donald Trump is just doubling down on that for his base, for his administration. And they've been clear when they make this statement, which they've put out through the White House press office, saying the president's been clear that he's focused on peace. We need our partners to be committed to that goal as well. We are pausing and reviewing our aid to ensure that it is contributing to a solution. So that's the thing to keep in mind when we're talking about aid here. There's always a presidential budget. Donald Trump was obviously never going to dip into his own budget for Ukraine. This is him telling Congress, I'm not going to let you go too easy if you want to start trying to spend congressional expenditure on Ukraine.
Annelise, give us a sense of how that showdown has been received in the United States. We know there's been strong criticism from Democrats and from critics of Donald Trump. What's the broader view like? Is there any sense of what America thinks of the way Donald Trump and J.D. Vance had that clash with Zelensky?
Oh, I wouldn't suggest at all that it's just been a rapturous applause across America for this, but there certainly is a strong element in the Republican base that is very supportive of this. They don't want America involved in foreign conflicts. They think it's a waste of money. They think it's so far removed from every day, and they think the focus should be here on the economy. And that's something else that Donald Trump hasn't moved the money on just yet. He's talking about implementing these tariffs. We've seen a dive in the stock market. We know he takes that seriously. And realistically, long term, for these tariffs to have the effect he wants, he needs to get big budget cuts and big tax cuts through Congress. And that's not a guarantee. So that all plays into what his strategy is here as well. And I do want to emphasize here that my interpretation from watching what they're doing is that there is absolutely a strategy to this. I've heard a lot of commentary just that Trump has this personal grudge and he blew up and it was just this out of control ambush. But this is a very different Trump administration to the first time around. There's a plan. I think they executed that plan in the Oval Office the way that they wanted to. And I think just the other thing to keep in perspective with all this is Americans hate spending money on foreign aid, and they have always had this disproportionate belief of how much money they spend on foreign aid. There's surveys all the time where people will think it's 30% of the federal budget, and realistically it's a fraction of the money that's spent federally, and mainly what they're doing right now is spending money on Social Security and servicing their own debt. So these are the factors that play into the kind of broader conversation around this. But I know from a global perspective, and I've seen a lot of the reporting commentary in Australia, that people are quite horrified that this is a realignment of how the US treats its allies and how the world order is changing. And be that all true, there is a certain element here that it's playing very well domestically.
Annelise Nielsen, live from Washington, thank you on that breaking news.